It's 6:45 a.m. Two employees are getting ready for work. One works at a normal company. She's nervous about a presentation. The other works at Enron. He's nervous he might get fired today for a number he didn't even create. By the end of this year, half the people in his office will be gone. Not laid off, ranked out. This is the story of how a performance review killed a company worth $68 billion. You've heard the headlines. Enron, the energy giant that collapsed in 2001, erasing the savings of thousands of employees overnight. But here's what almost nobody tells you. The accounting fraud wasn't the disease. It was the symptom. The real story is about a system so brutal that honest employees had only two choices: lie or lose everything. Today, we're not looking at spreadsheets. We're looking at the psychology of a workplace engineered to make good people do terrible things. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why this isn't just a 2001 story, it's a warning for every high-growth company operating today. Meet David, a composite of real accounts from former Enron employees. It's January 2000. David is 34, a mid-level trader, 2 kids, a mortgage in Houston. He's good at his job, not a genius, not a crook, just competent. He believes in the company. Enron's stock is rocketing. Fortune magazine has called it America's most innovative company, 6 years running. David walks into a glass office tower that looks less like a workplace and more like a monument. Everything about it says, "You made it." But David doesn't know that this building runs on a hidden rule. Twice a year, every single employee, thousands of them, gets dropped into a room and force-ranked against each other, 1 to 5. It's called the Performance Review Committee. Employees call it something else, rank and yank. And here's the part that should make your skin crawl. It didn't matter how good you actually were. It only mattered how good you were compared to the room. Here's how it actually worked. Every 6 months, managers sat in a closed room and forced every employee into a curve. The top 5%, stars, untouchable. The middle, 65%, fine, for now. But the bottom 15%, gone. Fired every single review cycle, no matter how hard they'd worked. Imagine a classroom where the teacher promises to fail the bottom 3 students, even if everyone gets an A. That's rank and yank. And it turned every coworker sitting next to you into a competitor for your survival. And for a while, this felt like rocket fuel. The stars genuinely believed they were the smartest people in any room. That's literally what executives told them. $1 million bonuses, 29-year-old VPs, Lamborghinis in the parking garage. David watched his colleague Andy get promoted twice in 1 year for booking a deal that hadn't even generated $1 of real cash yet. Nobody asked how. They just asked, "What's your number this quarter?" Now it's David's turn. His review is in 6 weeks. His numbers are fine, not great. And in a fine isn't good enough culture, fine means the bottom 15%. His boss calls him in, not to threaten him. That's the horrifying part. Nobody ever threatens you directly. He just says, "Mark closed a deal like this last quarter. It really helped his numbers. You should look into it." David knows exactly what that means. Book a trade using Enron's now infamous mark-to-market accounting, count future, imaginary profits as today's real revenue. It's not technically illegal, it's just a lie wearing a suit. David has 2 options. Book the fake deal, protect his family, keep his job, or stay honest and become next quarter's example to everyone else of what happens when you don't play along. This isn't a hypothetical. Former Enron employees described exactly this choice, year after year, thousands of times across an entire company. And here's what almost nobody admits. Most people, in David's position, would do exactly what he did. Here's the thing that separates Enron from every other fraud story you've watched. This wasn't Bernie Madoff, one man lying to the world alone in a back office. At Enron, thousands of Davids were making the same call, independently, all across the company. Not because they were evil, but because the system was built so that lying was the rational choice. Skilling and Lay didn't need to order a single person to commit fraud. They just had to build a machine where honesty was professional suicide and let human nature do the rest. By 2000, Enron stock hits $90 a share. Wall Street analysts call it a buy again and again. Employees pour their 401ks into company stock. Some have their entire retirement 100% invested in the one company they work for. David does the same. Why wouldn't he? Every signal, the stock price, the magazine covers, the bonuses, tells him this is the safest bet of his life. Now here's the question that should actually scare you. With thousands of people aware something was wrong, why did almost nobody speak up? Because Rank and Yank didn't just punish bad numbers, it punished questions. Ask too many questions about a colleague's deal, and you weren't seen as ethical. You were seen as not a team player, someone actively making your numbers look worse by comparison. The culture had quietly redefined whistleblowing as self-sabotage. And the lies didn't stay lies for long. Repeat a number enough times, in enough meetings, signed by enough vice presidents, and it stops feeling like fraud. It starts feeling like fact. By 2001, executives weren't covering up a lie anymore. They were defending what had become inside the building, simply the truth. October 2001. The lie finally meets the math it can't outrun. Enron restates its earnings, wiping out $600 million that never actually existed. The stock that hit $90 is now worth less than $1. 20,000 employees lose their jobs in weeks. And David, his 401k, the one he was told was the safest bet of his life, is gone. Not reduced. Gone. It's tempting to end the story here, with Skilling and Lay as the villains, convicted and sentenced, case closed. And legally, that's true. But culturally, David never broke a law. He just did what the system trained him to do for years. The real villain of Enron wasn't a person. It was an incentive structure, one so well designed at producing short-term performance that it was guaranteed eventually to produce mass fraud. Here's why this isn't ancient history. Forced ranking didn't die with Enron, it just rebranded. Stack rankings, top grading, aggressive up-or-out cultures still run inside some of the most admired companies on Earth today. The lesson isn't, don't hire bad people. It's this. If you build a system where survival requires beating your own colleagues instead of beating the market, you haven't built a high-performance culture. You've built a fraud machine, and you're just waiting to find out what shape the fraud takes. Enron wasn't destroyed by a villain twirling a mustache in a boardroom. It was destroyed by thousands of ordinary people making one small compromise at a time, inside a system engineered to demand exactly that. The scariest part isn't that it happened in Houston in 2001. It's that the exact same incentive structure could be sitting inside a company you've heard of right now. If you want to see how this same psychological trap played out with an entire industry instead of one company, that's exactly what destroyed Lehman Brothers. Subscribe, because that story is even more terrifying.